be here among my fellow patriots. I think the words of a patriot of the past, Thomas Paine, that were uttered on December 23rd of 1776 reflect greatly where we find ourselves again today in America. He said, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot in this crisis shrink from the service of their country, but he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny like hell is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value." Is that not so true today, fellow patriots? The Trans-Texas Corridor and the widespread proliferation of toll roads, particularly through the use of these public-private partnerships, to exploit the eminent domain powers of government and join it with the financial self-interest of private corporations, is about to befall not only Texas, but our entire country. More than 23 states have passed legislation to allow them to hand over our infrastructure to foreign companies and monopolistic sweetheart deals. It is nothing more than an all-out assault on our freedom. The freedom to travel, the freedom to own private property, the freedom from oppressive taxation and overbearing government. And that, my friends, is tyranny. Though not easily conquered, it can and must be crushed. The NAFTA superhighway, known as the Trans-Texas Corridor to Texans, called a myth by those trying to silence the truth, is very real and even has some segments under construction today. It is a 4,000-mile multimodal network of toll roads, rail lines, utilities, telecommunications, and pipelines of all sorts. It will be up to 1,200 feet wide and the biggest land grab in Texas and U.S. history, taking 580,000 acres of private Texas land. And to give you an idea of just how wide 1,200 feet is, that's more than 3 times the size of an existing interstate highway, and that is like 4 football fields end to end. Look down there, down the Capitol Mall. I am telling you, I bet you it's close to where the Washington Monument is. This is how wide this transportation corridor is going to be, and we are going to stop it in Texas so it does not get unleashed on this country. Two foreign companies are partnering with an American company based in San Antonio. We're in ground zero, I tell you. This company's name is Zachary. You've probably heard of Sintra, Spanish company, trying to take over our highway system. And a new one has emerged called ACS. It's a Spanish company. Don't be fooled by their nice little acronym name. And they have been given the rights by our state government to develop this Trans-Texas Corridor. It includes the right to build the most lucrative segments without even being subjected to a competitive bidding process, and it's leaving the taxpayers to subsidize the parts that aren't toll viable. The TTC, we call it TTC for short, will literally bisect whole cities and towns, slicing them in two so residents, farmers, and school kids have no access to the other side of this 1,200-foot wide tollway. And in fact, the law states the private operator only has to build overpasses where the corridor intersects state highways and interstates. So for TTC 35 alone, that means there will only be 5 exits in the entire state of Texas. Whoa. So make no mistake, the nightmare called the TTC is alive and well. We've personally attended most all of the nearly 100 TTC public meetings since 2006. When more than 40,000 Texans have gone on record against it, politicians take notice. But instead of kill the nightmare, they try to find new ways to put lipstick on their pig. There was a recent announcement disguised as a victory for angry farmers and ranchers where TxDOT said it would now expand the existing highway system and build Trans-Texas Corridor 69 there instead of building a massive new corridor through rural Texas. But guess what? There's always a catch when billions of dollars are to be made and when multinational corporations are chomping at the bit to get their cheap Chinese goods into the U.S., exploiting cheaper Mexican ports, Mexican trucks, and Mexican labor. The private partners conducted toll viability studies and found that the new corridor route wasn't a moneymaker because it bypassed all the urban areas and the beleaguered commuters who could be forced to pay tolls to get out of congestion. So they went back to using the freeways, the free roads, that would have been the toll operators' biggest competition for their toll revenues. So now they're going to toll those existing roads, kill any competition. Do you see how this isn't free market? Oh, they'll tell you that your free lanes will still be there. So they're fixing to do what they're about to do to a freeway near my home that got me involved in this fight before I even knew about the Trans-Texas Corridor. And that is they're tolling existing freeway lanes and making the only free lanes frontage roads with stoplights and slower speed limits. They are literally stealing our highway system. Calling it highway robbery is not hyperbole. So it was really the private operators and not TxDOT or the politicians that changed the route of the TTC, and believe me, it's no victory. It can still be 1,200 feet wide, privatized under the hands of a foreign company, and a toll road with most of the profits leaving our country. Within 2 weeks of that announcement, TxDOT then signed a public-private partnership contract with ACS of Spain and Zachary of San Antonio that gives them 12% guaranteed annual profits, a no-bid right to cherry-pick the most lucrative segments to build. They're not even bringing their own money to the table, since 3/4 of the construction costs will be paid for with your money. That's right. Texas lawmakers are stealing your federally backed taxpayer loans and bonds to build the NAFTA superhighway and give all the profits to Zachary and ACS of Spain. We have been browbeat with a pack of empty talking points by so-called libertarian think tanks like Reason Foundation that these public-private toll deals are the silver bullet to funding infrastructure without having to raise your taxes, because the private partners are supposed to be bringing all the money to the table, not cash-strapped governments. And it's the private partner, not the taxpayers, who carry the financial risk, they tell us. Well, all you have to do is dig into one of these contracts. There's 3 signed in Texas. There's other states, Indiana, Illinois, and Virginia, who are selling off their toll systems to foreign entities as well. That's all it takes to know that not one of those claims is true. First of all, a toll is a tax. Second, and it's the highest possible transportation tax. Second, there is no risk to the private operator when 3/4 of the construction cost is being paid by the taxpayers. When the state grants investors these non-compete agreements that prohibits any expansion of building any free roads around the toll road, it guarantees congestion on your free lanes for the next half century or more. The Chicago Skyway deal alone was a 99-year lease. They are going to indebt us for generations. One contract even gives TxDOT a financial incentive to lower the speed limit on competing free route Interstate 35 if they drive more traffic to the Trans-Texas Corridor toll road. Our government has become the puppet of private industry, and they've figured out how to team up to make billions off the public's roadways. These highways belong to we the people, not the government, not the road lobby. They have no right to steal our land in the name of public use when it's really about private gain and government profiteering that will relegate those who cannot afford the tolls to second-class citizens. Eminent domain has always been used for roads, but now for the first time the government can literally steal your land, pay you next to nothing for it, and give it to a private foreign company for profit. It's the Kelo versus New London case applied to roads. In Texas, they even passed a law called Quick Take Eminent Domain that allows the government to vacate the landowner within 90 days of notice of condemnation, whether or not their case is settled. That means they can vacate you from your land without even paying you yet. Now, that almost guarantees that the landowners will have to take the state's offer, whatever lowball offer they give, because who can relocate hundreds of head of cattle in 90 days without getting paid for the land you're on? And for most of these ranchers, it's been in their family for up to 150 years, some of these folks, and they're stealing their land. How are they going to go find another, 1,000 acres to go put their cattle on?